So this bonus revision vid is a bit of a potion I've brewed up of new ideas being just bubbling up into my whole vibe. Because remember, you really don't need to be the best DJ if you're bringing the realist vibes. Understanding music is about understanding life. So my interest in gaming is the power I've discovered in running ever more accurate simulations and models, and this is the core understanding of secret KRYPTOPUSS tiger penis knowledge, that we have utterly failed to grasp the power of technology, utterly underestimated it. These billionaires, whose fortunes are now growing out of control, have barely tapped the power available and are already more widely known than Michael Jackson, the Beatles, Elvis, the most thoroughly dominating music stars that will ever exist. A lot of the power and energy that used to be in music, jazz, rock, punk, metal, rap and rave is now in games. Real DJs will understand that the power to use music to shift culture has moved from the club into games, and the next stage is that games will become the culturally dominant media form, and what broader understanding and engagement of games means for society. Simulation type games are systems that model reality, and reality is based on systems of power, whereas the state education system is a system that models a reality that programs your submission to the system, and so is not designed to reflect real life relations of power. Games are real. School is not. This is why your teachers can't ever stop bullying, because life is bullying, the system is bullying, politics is bullying, power is bullying, history is bullying, and encouraging people to fight back against bullying will only result in collapsing the whole system, because it's all based on bullying. Teachers can't change that. They can only teach you to believe somehow this system is fair. You see, games are incredible learning and development tools. When we have games that act as accurate simulations and guides that model reality, which is not the fake reality projected by the structure that desires to integrate submissive and conditioned minds into a consumer system, then we will see a true information revolution, which is actually an education revolution. Most people in the West who believe they are suffering are not suffering at all. They are merely trapped in a consumerist game system, a hedonic treadmill designed by nerds so that the subjects are always vulnerable and desperate for the solution the machines that these nerds have built will provide for them: more products, more medications, more experiential services. We all know this is how social media works. Stuck inside the machine you're furiously inserting more coins into to keep playing by feeding it your attention in order to exist within it. A primitive simulation of what a community is supposed to feel like. Ever while these nerds perfect their mastery of modifying your behavior to their needs based on what their machines have learnt about you that allow them to know you better than you know yourself. But if you know how to Google up the tiger penis techniques, the mental ability to access the untapped power of technology, software systems, automated components, it doesn't matter what race or sexuality or level of physical impairment or social oppression you are experiencing, because you can trade, you can code, you can optimize your own systems and utterly depart from the cage of the current system that was built to manage you, and that was never possible until code built the software, so you can interface with this power that is still yet to be fully known to us. You build games exactly the same way so many people made their money in the startup era. You take two good ideas apps or software processes that normies are yet to even comprehend what they do on their own. In my case, it was these MySpace bots, fake YouTube plays, Facebook friends, and fake likes, etc. You take two processes and you strap them together, and then you strap another automated thing to it and an interface onto it, and so on. The hard part was getting people to pay for something that they do not understand. That's why I just did discs and posters in the end. You don't have to explain what posters do to the consumer, who is at the core of the consumerist system of society. You don't have to explain what Disinfo is to make it work. In fact, it's just the opposite. This is why Disinfo is so effective, because it preys on the weakness that the education system only teaches people to think critically or understand the world accurately to the extent it protects the system. And now it can no longer do so, because a game is different to a startup or a Disinfo op. A game is meant to be understood intuitively by the user because it's fun to test and develop your skills, to progress within the simulation. But now the simulations are so powerfully modeled, the feedback users receive unleash massive emergent knowledge. Now, whether or not our shared experience of reality is just a simulation doesn't determine that whatever we are experiencing is being shared between us for us all for some reason or some purpose. But the power this level of understanding is going to unleash amongst average normies is going to be like teaching dogs to talk, teaching monkeys to trade Bitcoin or start their OnlyFans. Evolutionary leaps, the revolution in education, just as when the printing press was first invented, means you can no longer keep the truth from people. They desire to taste of the fruit of the forbidden tree. They wish to be as gods and see what God sees. They desire new masters, and so they shall have them. And it will be those who build the games that teach these dogs to talk, that turn Pinocchio into a real boy, that do the job that the music stars we had last century once did. They were broadcasting knowledge to normies that helped them to feel real feelings and emotions instead of harnessed to their consumer programming for gratification and comfort, which is what my parents' generation experienced. Their boomer cultural reality was shifted by music artists who delivered new ideas through new electrical amplification and recording technology, and industrially manufactured duplications of those recordings before we had the internet. The greatest songwriters took mind-altering drugs, experienced alternative spiritualism, and then this music was then circulated globally to the youth, who were then turned on to this vibe. The doors of perception were now opening. So now in this modern era we have more drugs, raves, DJing, social media, YouTube videos, startups, building apps, trading assets, crypto, disinfo, culture wars. All these trends I experienced this century were platforms for extending culture and influential content, and games will be the biggest wave yet. But this revolution is limited because you cannot literally live and sustain yourself inside of a game. Sustainable housing, consistent with degrowth and minimalism, presents cabins, tiny homes, mobile homes, van life, and now containers you can just sling on a truck if your lifestyle comes under pressure from local economic or climate related conditions. But squatting to me is a game in which you beat the system that wants to extract value from you through the artifice of property law, and just like many games, you need to keep progressing or the game will grind you down. Being ready and adjusted to revolutionary consciousness makes you more quest orientated. When I wake up in my car or in a squat, I need to immediately start grinding, crafting, questing, As soon as the sun is up, there is no comfort I awake to in which I can indulge. I gotta get moving, and this is what I love, living with your back to the wall. When I cannot be located by the system and I am forced to learn more and move forward, I can't be found and I can't be stopped. A system designed ultimately to dispense treats to the normies so they don't burn down their own cages cannot protect itself from higher tier operatives. This is how the KGB was so effective in fighting the Cold War for decades, because Marxist analysis allows deep comprehension of all the critical weaknesses of the system that can be exploited, because capitalism by its nature expands to bursting and the system always leaks before it bursts, and this is what disinfo agents exploit. Squatting to me is where the concept for my first game in development meets with my personal interests in minimalism, my political interests in degrowth, and artistic interest in social realism in games. Inner city life, inner city pressure. I'm not really interested in engaging with ideological agendas of political preconceptions about the state of the world, when I'm more interested in engaging with the actual social reality that normies are experiencing. The social reality people experience and the state as it affects you personally. Police, schools, currency. Only the power of the state defines whether the police will help you. The school will teach you anything worth learning, or the plasticky paper you have, the number on the screen, that means you can afford to buy food. Games have the ability to undo all this programming, and if you think it was scary how Trump got elected, it's just the natural outcome of telling people not to eat the fruit of the forbidden tree. Their eyes will awake, they see what God sees, and it's too much for them to take, and the next they're screaming about these wild conspiracies, climate change, degrowth. World War III in New Zealand does not likely mean the state will collapse. This is the social realism I am dealing with in the games that I am designing. That other than international wars wrecking our economy, climate catastrophes are most likely to manifest as local disasters within New Zealand. Flooding, erosion and slips, drought, natural disasters that affect a local region disproportionately. We've already seen it with the Christchurch earthquake, parts of the country where things are just not functioning normally, and the ability of the state to maintain structure there and order will be tested. This is why I'm so interested in containers and the idea of just picking up your container and going where the opportunities for whatever stability and income you require to support yourself will be. So you see, games are a system, and our socio-economic system is a game. Nerds understand systems and they design systems. Once you understand the system, it's not so hard to beat the game. Making money isn't really that hard if you understand the whole game, but anyone who accesses higher consciousness realizes quickly that money is just mindless mid-tier bullshit designed to stop the monkeys from burning down the zoo by having been incentivized to be at their desk tomorrow to afford the stupid consumer indulgences that substantiate their lives and are repeatedly reinforced by media. So I don't need to live in a house or eat much food. Having a nicer house and a newer car, etc. doesn't give you power, it just means you need the police to protect your nice things. Yet you haven't realized the whole donut munching thing is actually real. Agents of the state are by necessity constrained in their ability to think dynamically. And once you realize the limited role the cops can play in providing you with personal security in a crisis, you have a new perspective on how things really are. Your need for nice things only empowers those you rely on to protect it, thus empowering the whole bullying system in which money flows furiously upwards towards Musk, Bezos, Soros, Gates, the architects of the future, because that's how the system has been designed by these men to keep society from falling apart. They're running the world and you're not because they are better at coding and trading than you are, but because the system relies on you buying nice things or something yummy to stuff into your face, and not so much about actually taking on responsibility for meaningfully changing the world to fit your values. Because you don't have any, you're a nihilist surrounded by products. Billionaires exist because the system requires the most effective means of control, and the extent to which this is effective on domesticating you is what determines the nature of the system which has created these billionaires and these concentrations of power and wealth which are effective for this purpose. Earning money to buy shit you don't need is not a challenge to acquire more status as you believe, but more of a limitation that tethers you to a mid-tier fake reality as a well-rewarded cog in an oppressive system. Unfortunately, what this indicates is the system is not stable if the police are not able to protect you from a determined enemy who wishes to take and destroy all of your nice things that you have forged your identity on. All the things the system has given you for showing up to work on time are not worth anything if your enemies can simply take them from you and no one can stop them. They can all be taken away and are therefore meaningless, because if you're not prepared to protect what you feel you've earned, was it even worth earning? You're only leaving yourself to be defined by your need to make an ever greater claim on vaster quantities of meaningless indulgence, and the state existing to protect your supposed right to do so. Everyone wants so badly to acquire consumer items. The system needs more babies to get born in order to do more mindless work, providing more consumer goods, and in turn consuming more goods. But this really has no meaning. It's just you feeling nice until you stop feeling nice and need another thing to feel nice once again. It serves no real purpose. You are just existing to be comforted that the universe has yet to be made more perfect for you to exist within. But once you understand the hedonic treadmill and that every problem is only yet to be replaced by other problems you haven't noticed or encountered yet, and every feeling is just a feeling that has yet to pass, you see how there's a lot more meaning in recognizing that evil and immorality are things that are real when you have decided that they are. And you don't have to ignore what's going on right in front of your face. If you are not willing and able to protect the things you have earned, then they are not worth much. And neither is your identity if it is all invested in these things that can simply be stripped from you. I'm not saying it will come crashing down or that you are personally responsible for the moral balance of the universe, but you just ought to be aware of how precarious the foundation of your identity and character really is at its core. If you are willing and able to protect the things you have earned, you can't do that alone. You need to make alliances with people who project power and become absolutely indispensable to your allies and menacing to your enemies. This is the only way to survive. Strong networks of trust between those who can project power to protect their mutual interests. That is the foundation of society. You can take my things away from me, but it will never stop me, because I enjoy living with nothing but my laptop, my car, some clothes from the op shop, and some blankets. Sometimes I'm at the library, or McDonald's, or at the Wild Bean. No, I can write, I can work on my games, my videos, or whatever. There is a personal aspect of social realism in that I engage with the reality of the world around me, and as an artist engage with urban reality. This is the city and it's real. I wake up and I have to get moving, I have to get things done because I cannot rely on comforts. I've got the cafe there, the gym is there, the library is there. I've created a situation where I'm forced to engage with reality and be across all the opportunities I experience, because I have become completely divested of commitments to anything except for where I've parked my car, Wi-Fi, and charging my laptop. It is almost an acknowledgement that the farm is a restful place to peace out, disengage and lower your baseline stress. And honestly, it's incredible. I can just keep reinvesting all the money I save from living like this into it, building up my evil spy base. But right now I feel I need to be more engaged, active in the field, honing techniques, bringing base pressure, pushing myself, building games, building connections, revising my music, and engaging with high tier consciousness and concepts. So this has been another dense wall of concepts to throw down onto this channel that are feeding into what I'm doing. Games. I think I'm going to be better at making games than I have been at making videos. But of course I will still make videos about my games, which are going to be platforms for music and narrative concepts that engage revolutionary consciousness. So this is no longer a channel with general videos I make to promote my music, but general videos I make to support the games I make that support my music. So squatting and the social realism of what degrowth in a relatively stable country like New Zealand is going to feel like are ideas feeding into my social realist take on gaming. My interests are mainly my farmlet, making videos about my games with my music in them, and some girls I met in Belarus. So that's what my games are mainly about. Things that are real and exciting to me. I don't necessarily need to live in a house to do that, because I'm not interested in sitting around. I'm interested in a higher tier reality, higher tier ideas and action. That's the power of art, reaching for something higher, something better, and that simply is not a nicer house or a nicer car than the next guy. That is only leaving you bound in your mind to mid-tier reality, where material conditions define who you are, that you depend on the state to protect your property and oppress others in order to do that. When you no longer live anywhere, you are no longer defined or identified by where you can be located. When you live this way, not because you lack the means, but because you've become so completely focused on what you value, creating art and relationships, that mere comforts and status are irrelevant to you. I can easily project a threat to my enemies because it does not disrupt my lifestyle to be homeless for weeks. I can still work on my projects, my games I'm developing, my archives. I still trade, I still collect my rent. It does not disrupt my activity, but I can so easily move into a position to disrupt others for whatever purpose that may serve my interests, because if I do not want to be found, you will never be able to find me. That's why the power of tiger penis knowledge and squatting knowledge, which is true street knowledge, and social realist concepts, make great concepts for games that look into the ideas of politics, morality, ideology, and how it's really expressed in society. Thanks for listening, and I will catch you next time.